I don't think the pros are going to be playing the same sets around the world. I think they might have 3 sets that are designed for different racetracks that they trust.
Well, I think people do that with wedges. You know, obviously for whatever reason, bounce is only talked about in wedges. You know, and then not talked about at all in irons. But like, I guarantee you, there's a couple of guys who play that have at least 2 to 3 sets of wedges, or at least 2 to 3 lob wedges.
I agree. To talk about a little bit. Now, one of the things, I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but ones that are maybe slightly high on the face, I notice tend to miss a little bit more left than the ones that are hit low on the face.
Yeah.
Kind of a common normal gear effect type of trend. Beautiful. Yeah, that was very good. I'll take it.
Thanks.
It's supposed to be done. Well, one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of times the lower bounce club will have a more downward angle of attack. And I think it's because it's not engaging the turf at all at any point in the measurement. And it's just pulling the ball. The club's able to continue. Bounce sometimes, depending on when this is measuring, if that club's hitting the ball and the turf simultaneously before it's off it can kind of like bottom the club out, and the angle of attack will read like 7. With a low bounce, it might be 8.5 or 9. I don't exactly know what the answer is to that, but I have seen that. Or this thing's hitting its measurement after the club's been deflecting, so if he hits it too low on the face, it's deflecting down more. Now it gets the measurement, and it's saying, oh, that was a 1.5 degrees more down on it. So, you have to know the intricacies of the tools, when the shot's being taken. I personally think that this thing needs to be telling us, 1, where's your face pointed before you swing it? I want to know where it's aimed. I want to know what's going on at first touch, and I want to know what happened by last touch. And you'd be able to see what the club's been doing in that duration.
Yeah.
But, I would agree with him. Let's pull up the data. The consistency is what matters the most in golf. It doesn't matter if you have ideal numbers or not. How consistent can you produce it? Then when we look at the path, we said his path is 3.3 in to out. Depending on how that machine's lined up, I think it's pretty neutral right now. That's probably pretty close. And you did that very consistent as well. So the angle of attack and the path are very consistent. So it means the airplane is coming onto the runway the same way every single time. What typically eludes people a little bit is their face to path relationship. Typically that's the king. How squared up can I get that face relative to my path to produce the shot that I want? Well, the first thing that I believe is if you're not getting perfect tiger strikes every single time, there's a chance that face could be manipulated if it's touching the ground too early, which I can clearly see is not an issue you're going to have. You get one ball half a groove high. If anything, it seems to me like you might be catching them a little lower on the face than
the first 2 were, yeah. Or
a little bit.
First and third, yeah.
But thin is better than fat. Typically, your ball will still be very playable from there. But what we're trying to do is say, how well can we get the face to match that path? How repeatable can we get it? And can we get a tighter front to back dispersion? This is a tough data set to where I would say I don't think there's anything about the sole design of his iron that's holding him back. You're a mid-low, so you're between a 2 and a 3 basically. I don't necessarily think that there's a ton. Now, what I would probably want to do, because taking you outside and letting you play in different places with a high bounce to your prescription and a low bounce to your prescription, and let you call me in 2 months and say, yeah, that high bounce actually out here feels a little bit better to me, and kind of figure that out. Now we got to introduce turf. Right?
Yeah, right.
That's
the biggest piece.
It's the biggest piece. Okay, that was really nice.
That was nice.
Very good.
Yep, that's about right.
Golf Digest and various things on the internet will tell you if you're hitting the ball here on the face, it's because your club is too upright or too flat or whatever. And I think this is a brilliant way to see if that actually is true. And what's interesting in your case, which I'd say is slightly more rare, there is some sort of trend here.
100%.
The standard lie angle, which is at 61.5, is virtually where we would want it. When we gave him a club that was very flat, he went a slightly bit toe biased. And then when we went upright, he went slightly heel biased and maybe a touch more thin. So in this case, there was a strike location difference, but I can't say that I've seen that as oh, I believe that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Many times you won't even see a discrepancy. Now what we want to do is say, okay, well, does the one that stand out as far as strike location, does it look like it's also the winner? And the first thing I'll do is just let my eyes look at the trajectory of the golf ball and say, well, there's only one that peaked up to a height that would be, acceptable to play in a firm condition golf course. And then you let your eyes go to, well, it was the fastest ball speed. That doesn't matter a ton. It launched more appropriate. I mean, you need to have a 16 or higher launch, I would think, with your 7-iron. Spinning it as much as we can. Yeah. It's a directional test. What's going to compensate the least to get the ball on target? I would say medium lie angle wins. What lie angle did he come out in with?
62.5.
62.5. So we have a discrepancy between 61.5 to 62.5. And then you got to ask him, what is your preference? Well, I like to draw the ball. What do you tend to do? Sometimes I pull it, but, I don't really know. I would say, all right, well, your lie angle should be between 62.5 and 61.5. If you want to freaking play around, play around. If you're very confident that that's what you should be playing, there's not a lot of evidence for me to tell you, that's red flag, dude, that seems off. You're within a degree from the test. I would say leave your lie angle, or if anything, maybe go slightly flatter. I don't know why you would go slightly more upright, unless you were just leaking the ball way to the right and you were trying to throw a Band-Aid on top of it type of thing,
Right.
Yep. Very nice. Yeah.
That was nice.
Wow. That's why I'm not a gambling man. Again, it's the
Okay.
rarest thing you'll ever see.
Right.
It's the rarest thing you'll ever see. So this was a flex test.
Yep.
The first shaft was the stiffest one, then a little bit softer, and then a little bit softer. This one, number 3, is quite a bit softer than number 1. So if we went from CPMs, 280, 300, 320. You did launch pink number 1 the lowest. You spun it the least, but it's close. Right? They're close. Ball speed was the fastest with the softest one. It was actually the most consistent. It actually launched very consistent, just a little on the lower side. It spun the most. What's interesting is it doesn't seem like the flex of the shaft compromised dispersion very much. Now, under the gun, pressure situations, all these other things, I don't exactly know. But one of the things I tell my fitters, I go, well, if one shaft's not standing out amongst the rest, again, always default back to what he has. Don't rock the boat too much. Here's one thing that we'll point out, though. When we look at dynamic lie angle, there was a significant difference in the dynamic lie angle of the soft shaft because it droops so hard. But here's what's also interesting. Its dynamic loft was the least. From my understanding, the softer shaft should go into more lead deflection, which inherently we should be adding loft, but it doesn't if you hit it lower on the face, typically. I don't know if you did. We'll have to look at the metrics. And this is another common thing that I see, is typically as the shaft gets softer, which means the torque is higher, you'll see the club present itself slightly more open. So really, 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 really stiff shafts tend to close the face a touch more or keep it more square, and softer shafts will let that thing droop more and want to kind of air open. Again, I would say I would keep him into probably pink number 1, not because the ball data is supporting it, because there's not much of a difference. You said it felt the most like home. It was the most like home. And I would just leave it. He might throw the angles more. What's interesting also is I got Johnny playing it.
I know it was.
You know what I mean? So what did we test? We just tested D7, like D.5, round D0, and then C5. But the total weight was the same.
Right.
So, what is standing out to us? Well, the first thing is you got. Now again, this is the type of thing that I was hoping all my tests would show me.
Yeah.
Difference. The flex test should have done that, in my opinion. I think the profile test should have done that, in my opinion. But turns out that it's the balance point of the club for this individual. And I mean, how is that thing not staring at you dead in the eye?
That's crazy.
Probably the best data set of the day, right?
Huh.
So, a D0 swing weight would be a good place to start. And you said he was at what to start?
D4.
Okay, so
nothing crazy.
That's
but
8 grams. It's 8 grams. It's again, I don't think it's a whole lot.
For me, it would be a noticeable difference. But again, like if we're tweaking one variable, but then like I never liked playing light swing weights because to me, then the total weight would be because it was just a light head. We wouldn't butt cap it or anything.
Sure.
So then it would like I couldn't feel it. I'd just be like anywhere, and then my low point's fucked, and I'm the ball's going anywhere. So
now that we know that you need or would slightly benefit from a lighter head, this is where forward golf comes into play. Can we find a head that light within the OEM realm? Should he play a forward head, get it to that spec, and have a couple extra weight so when he's on the range and he can't feel the head, he could take a 2 gram out and put a 3 gram. Take it out, put a 4. I mean, again, over time, I think, and that's what I told my guys, I said at some point, just Loctite them in. That's you committing that this formula that you've got in this club, if that's a standout thing.
That's crazy.
So far.
Yeah,
that's a standout.
That's a huge difference.
Swing weight mattered a lot in this individual's case. That's what's cool.
Yeah, I used to hit it to the moon, so I could play hard golf courses great.
Rifled.
That was nice.
This is what I love about this test. I'm thinking that shaft flex and these other things are going to be my needle movers. I threw length in there just to accommodate for different size people, and all of a sudden you start getting data sets going, oh my God, no way, the length is like this thing, right? So obviously ball speed, we know you're not orange 3. The launch is the lowest. Interestingly enough, normally the spin is the lowest. That didn't happen, but I don't think we're looking to get that boring of a ball flight. Then we look at, whoa, dude, if he needed to hit it higher, which in the conversation doesn't seem like he does, the easiest way for him to get it isn't by moving the shaft. Now, the swing weight was close, and what's cool about this test, they're all D1.5 swing weights in this particular test. So it's pretty close to what we're kind of recommending, even in that longer length. I mean, when I look at this data from what's happening here, and typically what will happen out on a driving range is you will launch the ball slightly lower than indoors, but you're going to spin it a little bit more. I look at this and say, if we wanted to mess around with a practice club of some sort, and you would be able to obviously overrule it, I would want to try to make something like a 1/2 inch over.
Yeah.
Maybe a 1/4 inch longer than what you've got right now.
I would agree with that, yeah.
And what's that going to do? Maybe get his launch up just a little bit.
Might also bring the strike a little, like a smidge higher, right?
A little higher, you would assume. Yeah. And we also notice a lot of times, and you want to keep your eye on it, is it does, it's a little harder to square up. The face wants to come in just a hair more open. Let's go to the club data real quick, because I do want to kind of analyze angle of attack. Now, again, I know that our thumbprint is all different, like as a pro golfer, but I do like to look at PGA Tour averages. I'm never going to try to take a good player and force them into PGA Tour averages. But I think it is good to understand, like, how close am I to that PGA Tour average. So for you, I'm just going to look at angle of attack. Average angle of attack on the PGA Tour currently is around 5 down on a 7-iron. You are not that, but I don't care about that. But I also kind of want to go, well, is there a length that gets them closer to like what the majority of them are doing? Sure, there's guys who hit less down on it, and there's guys that hit more down on it. But how many guys are 9.5 down on it? Probably a very slim amount, and maybe you're going to be like the guy to come out of the way, hey, this is the new way. I like to go, well, that one's really close to what most of the guys are doing, and you didn't have to try to do it to do that. So I think there might be a little bit of an advantage to going a little bit longer. So what is the prescription? The prescription is going to be, I would say from what I saw in the test, mid bounce, we can still mess around with the high. The difference is just a couple degrees.
Right.
I would say a mid bounce, I would keep your lie angle. If we were going to go a little bit longer, I'd call it 62, not 62 and a half, just a little bit flatter to accommodate that little bit of length.
Yeah.
I would do 120 to 130 gram shaft. I would keep it in the extra stiff. I would be looking at something with a softer mid or softer tip section. I would love to see if we built you an overlength club at a D0 swing weight, like what that looks like.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
And keep your same grip with just that much longer.
Yeah.
And just say, here's an experimental club. My goal is to compare this to what I'm currently playing. And if you're like, this thing's freaking better, I would love to make you a set. You know what I mean? That's how we like to roll.
Yeah, I love it.
And I think if I had to select a shaft right now, I'd start off probably with a TX 120 Nippon. Let you sink your teeth into that. If for whatever reason you're like, it's all right, it's nothing great, I'd probably want to see you try the TPT 14 high would be my next.
Is that the softer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to see that in your hand. But I'd probably start off with the Nippon to start.
Yeah.
Just because it's a little bit heavier. It's
also a profile I'm pretty comfortable with too.
Sure.
So I've never played a lot of soft tip stuff, but I'd be curious to try. I actually hit a Ventus Red in the driver. I actually kind of liked it.
Okay.
The thing is, I'm just not a draw guy with the longer clubs. So softer tip for me
makes sense
because then I'm hitting it both ways.
Sure.
See, the interesting thing.
There's a lot of variables in golf. So when you can single out one at a time and focus on what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and then mush them all together, I think it's a really interesting experiment, and I'm excited to see what the test club brings. Because I think, none of the stuff that Chad was saying was unreasonable. It's all stuff that I'm comfortable with, and I mean, it's going to be exciting. I'm really excited to see what it's all about.